Hi, I'm Jim Pendree, and welcome to jimpendree.com and vlog number 2. Vlog number 1 was on understanding the industry of network distribution and why the business even exists. It's because we don't listen to advertising anymore. This vlog is going to be about the philosophy that drives the business, and I think you'll find this really interesting. I have some really good points to make in this video. I started building a business in this industry 30 years ago because I wanted freedom. That was my biggest goal in life. And at that time, I thought, you know what? If I could create an income of $3,000 to $4,000 a month to pay for my life, perfect. And I can move on and do different entrepreneurial activities, and I'll always have an income to pay for my life. Well, I wound up totally falling in love with the industry, and I built it way bigger than that, right? And I still took time out. I took about 15 years out in the middle of that 30 years to do different things, but I always kept up with the relationships. But the business stayed strong, and it's strong today. And people say to me, like, they're like, Pendree, I've met lots of people who built businesses, but eventually they kind of fizzle. You're the only person I know who's built a big business and it's lasted all these years and it's still strong today. And I have the company that, and the product, and there's lots of factors in that. But some of there's 3 points I'm going to explain today, which will help understand why that is. Because I really do believe a lot of people are in the dark about how the business works, maybe more now than ever before. So before I get into the first point, I want to just make sure you print off that 12 steps that could change everything for you, the document on my homepage, because a lot of these tips are in there. I just explain it more in the videos. So the first point, I'm just going to use my cheat sheet here, is my box of notes. So I've taken a lot of seminars and read a lot of books and done a lot of things in the last 30 years. And about 3 years ago or so, I pulled out this box and I was like, what's in this box anyway? And it was all these notes from all these courses and books I read and whatnot. And it took me a week to get through all these notes I'd taken. And I don't take notes like that anymore. I still have that box. I still take notes when I read a book. Otherwise, you forget it. But anyways, what came out of reading all those notes was basically, if you believe it, you can achieve it. Every book, every course, everything came down to that point. And that is 100% the truth. And when I started in this business, of course, I used the product for a while, and then I flew down to Los Angeles and checked out the manufacturing. I met the owners, and I was like, wow, I met people who were successful already in the company, and they were just average, down to earth, teacher type people, non-sales type. And I was like, if they can do it, I can do it. So it took a period of a year or more to make that happen. So I gathered this belief that I could do it if they can do it. And then the next point, and maybe the most important point, is I made an unconditional commitment that I would make it work no matter what. Now, when I say this to people, they're like, oh, what is that like? Well, it's like when you raise a child or whether you do anything, it's an unconditional commitment to make that work, to raise that child, to fix that problem, whatever it is. And a good thing to go along with that point is I was at a seminar in Las Vegas a couple years ago, and Anthony Robbins was speaking, and he had us pick a partner. And he goes, I want you to take that partner, and I want you to explain your opportunity and your product to them in the most boring, defeated way you possibly can, right? And it's like, you probably wouldn't be interested. I have this product that you might like, and a business opportunity. Well, it takes effort and it might work for you, but and of course, no one's going to be inspired by that. You're not going to move anybody. And then we had to explain it in the most excited way possible. So, of course, we're spitting on each other. This is such a great opportunity. You can own your own island. You can make so much money. You can feel so amazing, whatever. And it was just so funny. And he made the point so well that excitement sells, blondness doesn't. And there's no shortage of people with no vision, with no excitement, right, in your life. And everybody wants to follow someone who's excited and passionate. Like the saying is, catch on fire with enthusiasm, and people will walk for miles to see you burn. So you've got to create that. You've got to ask the questions. You've got to hang out with the people. You've got to experience the things that you need to experience so you can get excited enough about your company and your product in order to build a business. So that's number one. Number two is everybody wants more money. They want more time. They would like to make more of a difference. They would like to feel better. They have desires. They have goals in life. And I know people tend to give up on their goals as they get older, but a lot of people have goals and dreams that they want to achieve. But what's the problem? What happens? Why don't people move ahead and do that? Is number one, they don't have the vehicle to do it. They don't know who to trust. They don't know how to do it. And they don't want to do it by themselves either. So this is what holds them back. I get a kick out of coaches right now. And I mentioned earlier that maybe more than ever, people are kind of confused about how this business works because there's so many coaches, people online maybe, promoting programs where they're going to show you what to say to people. They're going to show you how to run an ad on Facebook so you can get 10 people join your company every week in your business. But from my experience, that no matter what happens, people have to know you, like you, and trust you, or nothing happens. And in order for that to happen, people have to be around you long enough. They have to want to be like you. You have to have integrity, and you have to be an example of what you're doing, and you have to be inspired and excited and authentic. And when that happens, people will decide that, yeah, I'd like to do what you're doing. And it's more like, it's proven fact that people, they're more interested in the community than they are the business or product. And you have to create that. And that's not a very hard thing to do. I've seen people start. This one couple is a really good example. They were the nicest couple and they just used the products. They came out, they had all these contacts, but they didn't talk to anybody. And they came out to the meetings for about a year. I think it was 11 months. And then I remember, and she was just inhaling all this information and stuff. And all of a sudden she called one day and she said, if I got some people together, could you come over and do a meeting? And we're like, sure. And she had 18 people there and most of them sponsored, and her business just went boom. And she said afterwards, she said, Jim, she goes, when we started, like, we didn't know you and we didn't know the company and we didn't know the product. And it took a while for us to get that trust. And that's just kind of how the business is. And there's another factor to this is that you'll get someone, a lot of people are kind of like this, is that they get started and they use the product for a while and then they get sold on the product and then they start realizing, okay, so I can see now that network marketing companies can be really good, have really good products. So when that's the case, I think I'd like to do the business. And then they'll say this statement that it confuses me, and they'll go, but I don't want to talk to anybody about the product. I just want to talk to people about the business. I don't want to deal with customers. That's just too much work. And the thought that goes through my mind automatically is, well, what about them? Don't they get the time to establish the trust? They somehow should just believe that the product is awesome and the company's awesome and just fly right into the business, build a big business. Doesn't usually happen because people have to earn that trust, especially in a business like this. Like we're trying to collect followers, people who want to consume a product, people want to be part of a movement, right? And they want to be part of the community and they want to maybe build the business. And all that takes time and training, and it takes time for them to stick for the long term. And my leaders and I, we talk about this a fair bit, about how our most committed consumers and our most committed leaders are the ones we've taken the time to build that relationship with, that we've been in rooms, living rooms with, and meeting rooms with, and on Zoom calls with, the ones we spend the time with. The third principle is that it needs to become their idea, right? When an idea forms in your brain, let's say you decide, we really need to do something with that TV, or we really need to replace the siding on the house, or, we've had this car for a few years. I think it's time to buy a new one. Most of the time, 2 years goes by before you actually act on it. So it's one point where it becomes, I call it a bubble in your brain, and 2 years goes by before you act on it. It could be 1 year, it could be 3 years, it could be 5 years, but a certain period of time goes by. You're collecting information, and when that day comes where you've made the decision, you just go out and you buy one. You make that decision that day. So in the middle of that time, there's people that are running ideas past you. It could be advertisements in newspapers or on the TV, or it could be someone who's talked to you about a wellness program or a business opportunity. And if that person stays in your life and they haven't pushed you about it, they've just been in your life, when that day comes where you make a decision, you'll probably call them. And so often distributors, they get depressed because they go tell all their friends, or they tell people and whatnot, and maybe one or two of them or whatever may be interested, but the bulk of them aren't. Well, who knows where they're at in that cycle of their 2-year program or their 5-year program before something becomes their idea. You have no idea. You just got to be there, be kind, be a professional, and let it become their idea. Now, I had some other notes about this. Oh yeah. So several years ago, I was watching a video, VHS tape, and a coach was interviewing one of his students, and he was a pretty successful network marketer. And they were talking about this idea, and they called it dripping on people. And they were saying, you got to drip little bits and pieces of information on people until it becomes their idea. You ask a question. Have you ever thought about this? Have you ever heard about this? Ask a question and then change the subject. Like, you're just being real and authentic, right? You want to know, what do they know about this? Are they interested in that? But you have no, you don't care about the outcome of that. And you just build a relationship. And then the day finally comes along. It could be a year, it could be 2 years, could be never. Or finally it comes up in the conversation and we get into it. And those are always the best people. So you got to have patience when you're building your business, when you're out talking with people. And it works a lot the same on social media. You've got to become real. You've got to become a friend before they're really going to care anything about what you do or what you have to say. And there's a saying, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And it's honest, and that can't be faked at all. So those are the three most important parts about the philosophy of building the business and earning trust and talking with people. And there's lots of other details about how to actually present when that time comes. So I hope you've enjoyed blog number 2, and I'm looking forward to seeing you on blog 3.